Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Brooks of Basic Brooks, and you are back with another episode of the Empower Hour brought to you by the Empower Plant. I am joined today with Dr. Michelle Mitcham again. Thank you for joining us again.
Hello, thank you for having me.
She and I were just on something on Tuesday, and we want to talk about that later. But thank goodness she's back with us to talk about the whole month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself again so people can reorient themselves. And then tell us how you spend most of your professional time. You're also the publisher of the Tallahassee Women magazine, but tell us your day job.
Well, right, there's a lot. So I'm a clinical mental health counselor. I'm a qualified supervisor in the state of Florida, and I'm a nationally certified counselor and a certified clinical mental health counselor with the national board. So those are just a few things. I'm a Florida Supreme Court certified family mediator. And so I've been dealing with conflict, mental health, and those kinds of things for years. I'm a professor at Florida A&M where I teach in the clinical mental health counseling program. We're preparing master students who are becoming psychotherapists and also school counselors, but I deal with the students who are becoming mental health counselors. And of course, there's a magazine, and I have a private practice called Courageous Conversations, and that's for mental health, executive coaching. I do a lot of coaching with women, professionals. People have performance anxiety, sometimes imposter theory, depression, high conflict divorce. My expertise, there's a lot. I've been teaching for a long time. And so I take all of those topics and weave them into what I do as a consultant or as a trainer or a therapist or a professor. And I'm so happy that Dana and I connected and we have so much in common. And I mean, I can't wait to, talk to you again and have lunch. We have so many ideas.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we're always coming up with ideas. Every time we meet, we're like, we do these 5 things. And if we do one of them, it'll change the world. It's amazing.
Exactly.
I want to welcome the panel today. I want to welcome Kimmy Hogan back. Kimmy, hey, how are you?
Doing great. How are y'all doing?
Good. What's going on in your life right now?
Ooh, just working. Kids are in between school and summer camp starting. So we're in that transition right now, but everything's great.
When I was parenting younger children, you're never not a parent, but when I was parenting younger, that was the most anxious time of the year for me. Okay, when school starts, I just
yes.
And then when school gets out, I'm like, what am I doing with this kid? How is she going to be entertained and not, go into brain mush over the summer? So that was an anxious time for me. So maybe we can circle back to that when we talk to Dr. Mitcham in a minute. Rose Caswick, what's up? What's going on in your life right now? What's causing you a little bit of
Oh, everything.
Only everything.
Yeah.
Nail down 3. How about give us the top 3?
I'm actually having a good day today, and it feels like the first good day that I've had in like 2 years. So let's
go. That's it. Awesome.
You're killing me.
Wow. I've been a depressed bitch. And
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it to the extent you're comfortable. I think I'm ready to open up. Let's do it. Let's get it out there. Let's normalize this shit's hard. All right, Carrie Roan. Carrie Roan, welcome back. What's up going on with your life?
Hey. Well, so I always thought that planning the summer camps for the boys was like planning an insurgency. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. It's crazy. And you get all stressed out, but you're relieved because you don't have to pack lunches. You don't have to get them ready for school in the morning. You don't have to answer teachers' emails or remember the school project or remember what they're supposed to be wearing to school the next day or any of that stuff. So it's kind of a relief. But what's going on with me is Gabriel is taking an AP exam in the next room. I'm working at home and he's going to school at home. So he's in the middle of an AP exam. My parents are getting older, so I'm trying to help them through a couple of things right now. And my other son was taken to tennis by my dad. So it's like a million things going on. I'm trying to work full time and it's the end of the month. So, got a lot of cases going on and a lot of clients want a result by the end of the month. So, yep.
Trying to turn and burn and make it happen.
Yeah.
Whitney, what's going on with you in your life right now? How are you today?
Oh goodness. Okay. Move y'all around. I am I'm doing pretty well today. The earlier part of this week was pretty stressful. There's a lot of highs and lows, as always. So we have like a new team here at Basic Brooks that I'm kind of getting used to, and started a part-time job. So I underestimated how hard a full-time and a part-time job was going to be, but I love it. So that's great.
Yeah. There's an accountability factor there. And you know what? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you find out for yourself. You know, a mentor or a guide can't teach you everything. Sometimes you have to experience it. But Rose, before we get too deep into this, because it sounds like it's going to be a deepie, what are we having tonight?
We have a drink in honor of Margaret Atwood. It's pomegranate, apple juice, lime, and rum. It's red like a handmaid's robe from The Handmaid's Tale. I've never read it. Seems like it'd be too depressing for me, speaking of, but here we are.
May I say this? May I share this? I've never watched it. Everybody's like, how can you be a feminist? How can, and you haven't watched this? I'm like, you know, I've lived a lot of this in modern times. I don't know if there was like some happy glowing ending and some empowerment theory that developed from it, might go just jump right on it. But I don't know that I want to have
It sounds miserable.
It sounds horrifying.
Log. Yeah.
But anyway, how's this drink?
I think it's good.
It's the prettiest drink we've had for sure.
It's really pretty.
Now, can I eat this, or is this not an edible?
Don't eat it.
Okay.
Don't.
That's straight from Publix.
Hashtag lawyer, get it in writing or audio.
Yes, you've been warned.
All right. Doctor, let's get back to it. Courageous conversations. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I want to talk about specifically imposter syndrome, which when I was coming up used to be called fake it till you make it.
Well, no, yeah. So in Courageous Conversations, the reason I name my company Courageous Conversations is because, you know, a lot of times people don't have the space within the relationships of their family to have conversations about feelings or about certain topics, that you don't talk about that, or don't talk about this with dad or mom or whoever. Oh, it's the right time. Let's wait till, you know, after dinner, or let's wait till Saturday. When people have all those dynamics going on, who knows what's going on in your family, but sometimes people have codependent families, and you're accepted only if you fit in with the family and their expectations, if you're going to be the doctor or the lawyer or the teacher or the nurse or whatever. And so you have to have courageous conversations in order to arrive at courageous solutions in your life. And so I realized courage is a huge part of just naming something. Like you can feel it, but it's almost been like a taboo to name it, to speak it, to put it out there, because you think it's going to give it life, or someone's going to judge you. And as women, you know, we think we have to fit in and be a certain way. And we think the other person is doing great. But when you really have courageous conversations, nobody is perfect. Everybody's experienced something. You know, it's amazing. Like you've shared, you know, things you've been through. Everybody's been through something. And so these people who are just acting like everything's perfect, and they're, you know, life is just a perfect reality TV show. Trust me, there's more there. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We all have crap, right? We all have shit to deal with, right? And how do you deal with it? It's a choice. Do you choose to have a pity party, or do you say, you know what, I'm going to get up and go and do what I need to do and change my physiology, you know, take some medicine, go to therapy, do something, and make a decision to do the alternative? And that's what we have, choices every day, right? The power to choose is just so great. And so we have that power, but sometimes we don't even know, because of what you just said, the imposter theory, right? That we don't think that, well, who am I to say this, or who am I to own this or claim that, or to say whatever, to, you know, whatever, be positive. Who are you not? So women oftentimes make themselves very small, and they don't have to be. They don't give themselves permission to be empowered and to own their space. We're talking to, you know, Marcia Dahl, like she talks about the runway of life. We have to own your runway, you know, own your runway. And that's not being cocky. That's just being confident. And it doesn't have to be, oh, stay in your lane. You could be in several lanes. You know, you can do what you want to do. And so imposter theory ties into and feeds a whole lot of implications for mental health. And it can come from our family. And so imposter theory we can have families like we're that walking around on eggshells. That's called being codependent. Remember there was a book many, many years ago by Melody Beatty? And she said, I'm going to paraphrase. She said something like this. There are those people that are in the darkness and they want to pull you in with them. We talked about that before, but you have to choose not to go. You can tell that person you're in the darkness. It seems like you're trying to pull me in the darkness with you, but I choose not to go. And so some people come from families where they are walking on eggshells. You don't say that to that person. Oh, I have something I want to say to my husband or my mother, or my father, or my sibling, but oops, let me edit it first. Rewind, edit, and let me put it a different way and do the reframe. And then it's going to be more accepted. So what we do with all of those issues, people make pathological accommodations for others. And I'm here to say we shouldn't make pathological accommodations for anybody, right? I know, Dana, you call something out in a minute. You'll drop the F-bomb. You're like, but that shit. No, we're not doing that. Don't make pathological accommodations. If someone is totally inappropriate, don't make pathological accommodations. Tiptoe, like, oh, I don't know. What do you think? How do we say that? You have to call that person out. And there's ways to do that. You don't have to do it my way or your way. Everyone has their own way with their personality, but we don't want to make pathological accommodations for bad behavior.
No, or else you're perpetuating it. You're an accomplice in your own mistreatment, and you have to accept that. Whenever you when you abide it, whenever you don't make it difficult. So many people are more afraid of someone going, oh, she's a difficult bitch, than saying, hey, stop for a minute. I have the microphone right now, and I want to make you understand that this is not cool, man. Hey, Kimmy, you got any thoughts on what we're talking about tonight? Mental health, standing up for yourself, mental health awareness. What kind of message would you like to get out with this platform today?
Well, I have a comment specifically on the pathological accommodations, which I've never heard that term before.
I haven't either.
I love it. It makes so much sense. So when I was growing up, there were a couple of relationships that I was observing in my life where people were making those types of accommodations. And I made a conscious decision when I got together with my husband. I was like, I am going to tell him everything I think, everything I feel, even when I'm scared to, because I knew I had to be 100% blunt and honest in the beginning, so I didn't get used to hiding things from him.
Love it.
And it was tough because I would do things that I knew he'd be upset about. Specifically, I'm really messy. So like I'd mess something up, right? I'd drop something, I'd break something, and I could hide it, but I would force myself to immediately call him and tell him. And you know what? He was totally fine with it. Yeah. He was, every single time I had to tell him something, he was okay. I had just, you put it on yourself. I think he's going to be this way if I bring this bad news. And so I just knew going in, I never wanted to make any sort of accommodation.
Right. I
didn't have that term, but it's cool to hear about it now. But I mean, that was something that I really had to work on in the beginning. But it's interesting because now I'm just, we're 7 years into our marriage, and it's still like the beginning where I just tell him everything. And sometimes he's like, Kimmy, you don't have to be so honest.
But you know what? I bet your honesty built a tremendous trust foundation that will, see you through any sort of hiccups. In marriages, in my experience, Dr. Mitcham, you share your experience. But when I think of couples and marriages, I hear things. I mean, I'll hear all the time people like, we got divorced before we even knew it. There's just no talking. There's no communication because it's like, I'm afraid if I say this, he'll say this. You do all these exercises in your head. If I do this, they'll do this or whatever, without ever engaging them and see what they'll actually do. Yeah. I think that's very dangerous. And I think a lot of people jump to conclusions, whether it's in a romantic relationship, a friendship, a work relationship. You just think because of one reaction or some reactions you've had with them, you've created an avatar of them. And so you think, okay, this is what I feel. This is how they're going to feel in response. Mm-hmm. So just give up. It's not even worth it. Let's walk. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, I love what you're doing. You're saying, I'm putting myself out here early and often. So if this is not a good fit, let's find out now, because let's be honest, instead of doing this mental gymnastics for the next however many years, I applaud that 100%. What do you think, Dr. Mitcham?
I think that what you're saying, all that is correct, but I want you to know that, when we have these, in your head, we have these cognitive schemas, right? And those cognitive schemas are like the GPS of how you do this. How do I handle this situation? How do I handle that situation? And so everybody has this schematic, these schemas in their head. And so ideally, we have internalized, not always hook, line, and sinker, but we've internalized, even inadvertently or unconsciously, a lot of those schemas and how to do things from our family of origin. And so what happens is we actually, if we have unfinished business with our family of origin, we take those into our married life, into our relationships with peers, with friends, with our husbands,
With our children.
significant others, children.
Yeah.
And then what we do, we're doing this dance. And so in our family, maybe they, it was unwritten rule that you do things this way, you do things that way, or my mom or dad would get upset with me if I did that. So we have this assumption and we're still reacting. We have triggers from unfinished business from our family of origin. So then unconsciously, we actually manufacture and create that situation and scenario in our current relationships. And it's almost like having an invisible person in the room. And that people don't know that that's the problem. It's not always the other person. It's because we're not taking the risk. With risk and courage, you can redefine the relationships and the possibilities in your life. And so when we take that risk, like you did, Kimmy, you have that courage to say what it is, walk the talk, be congruent. So the one thing I want people to take away is being congruent is so powerful for your mental health. When you walk the talk, when you say what you mean and mean what you say, and you don't edit it, you don't have to edit it before it comes out, and you say, this is how I feel. Otherwise, you're making those pathological accommodations for others, and you're not being true to yourself, and you're not being authentic. So that's why we have to figure out, what do we take, and what do we have to write a letter? There's those things we do in therapy, right? Write a letter to that person that hurt you, or write a letter to your mom or dad, or whoever it was. Maybe they're in heaven, or maybe they're somewhere else, whatever you think. Write a letter, but don't send it, and write out everything that you feel. And you don't have to send it, so that you have closure. Some people have heard about the empty chair. That's a Gestalt technique that we do, where you have the empty chairs, and you speak to that person and you tell them everything that you wanted to say and what hurt you or what your unfinished business was, because otherwise it's like having a secret person in your relationship that's there, like an invisible person, and it might not have anything to do with your partner. It's just that you assumed that this is how things were. And so you're walking on those eggshells or making those pathological accommodations because you're not being congruent.
Yeah. That's terrible. The dissonance you feel between who you are and who you feel you must project into your world to be successful, whether it's in an employment setting or a romantic setting or a friendship setting, whatever the setting, whatever. You have to be different people for different people. That creates a dissonance. And
that's exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting. It's all these lives you have to keep up with. Carrie Roan, we haven't heard from you in a minute. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like Michelle just diagnosed my problems for the past 30 years. So that was pretty awesome. I feel like
we've got people on the Empower Hour.
Listen, you guys should have a big picture of me in the background as the person who walks on eggshells and does this pathological accommodation, because that cannot ring more true for me. And it's kind of embarrassing to say, because in my professional life, I speak very powerfully and very strongly for everybody else. In my personal life, I don't speak that way for myself at all. I am all about walking on eggshells, not hurting people's feelings, not upsetting them, and not telling them, the truth, really. And for me, primarily, it's with some very close family members who have addiction problems. And it's like playing a chess match every day where they're unhealthy, not me. But in order for me to keep everything peaceful, I have to make very strategic moves and measure my words very, very carefully. And it is exhausting. And I'm learning now at the age of 46, the easiest thing for me to do, and also the hardest thing for me to do, is be honest and say, I am uncomfortable with this. This hurts me, and I cannot do this for you. That is very, very hard for me to say to family members.
That's very hard. That can take people sometimes years. Some people never get the resolve because there's a sense, we're in the American rural South. There's a sense of family obligation that passes down. But I honestly, I mean, I can't say we own that. I mean, New England people, everybody cares about their family, but, or people who they've taken in as their family. You know, when you love somebody, you feel an obligation toward them, but when their wellness comes at the expense of yours,
Yeah.
I think it's time to say, is this a healthy relationship, or or am I an enabler?
Oh, excellent. When, there's that saying, when the pain of holding on becomes greater than the pain of letting go, you will let go. And sometimes there's people we have to let go that we love. And because we love them, we have to let go. And oftentimes you mentioned when there's substance abuse, alcohol abuse and things like that, then there's a lot of gaslighting, manipulation,
Right.
and there's a whole lot there. It's very, very emotionally exhausting to deal with.
Yes. Yeah, very much.
Thank you for sharing that.
You
Can I
can, you
ask you
can
a
help
question?
somebody to death.
Yeah, I mean, so Michelle, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So this is like, it's kind of personal, but hopefully somebody will watch this and maybe learn from my mistakes or learn from this. But, going to a big family event and being expected to do things with family members who are unhealthy and you cannot subject yourself to them. What's the best way to get out of that? Just flat out tell them, listen, we're going to be at this event together. I cannot be with you and I can't have my children be with you because you do A, B, and C. Do I be that honest, or do I just kind of avoid it?
Well, actually, sometimes it depends on what you think is best. There's some people who have sent an email. Some people have called and just said it. Some people have written a letter, because once you name it, that the whole thing about naming it, when you think about how you're feeling, just think what happens when you have a conversation with someone and you weren't authentic and you walked away. And have you ever, women have told me this all the time. They say, God, I wish I would have said what I really wanted to say. Ooh, right? If you don't say it. So there's this thing about, they say you have to actually name it and claim it before you can tame it. So you got to name it.
I like it.
So when you got to name it. And if you name it and claim it, that this is what you feel, and you don't apologize for it, because you are worthy of respect. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of being in a safe environment. The other night, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
It's not just that sense of belonging, all those things and money and all that. Great. But what about those other things, and trust and honesty that you want, with family? Sometimes you have to just call it out and say it, and again, you have to figure out the situation. We wouldn't want you to get hurt, but like physically or something, but
Right.
it's sometimes people need to hear, when you love someone, you tell them the truth, you tell them the truth. And I know it's hard, because if you've been doing this codependent thing and walking on eggshells, it's really hard. You might even be to the point of having anticipatory anxiety and crying. You could be so stressed out in order to say it, but it may be a great thing. We can talk about that further, off camera, but you might want to, call them out or say it, because if your children are not safe, you want people to be safe, right? You want your kids, you want your family to be safe. And sometimes you have to disconnect because we have to teach people how to treat us, right? If something's just not attractive, it's not attractive. It's just, some certain behaviors aren't attractive. And furthermore, they could be dangerous. Then, you have to protect your family.
Yeah. Thank you.
I completely see that. I completely see that. You've got to, it's a trite metaphor, but it's like, the airplane, when the thing comes down, you got to protect yourself before you give the oxygen to somebody else. I always say this. I said, they never use a man to demonstrate that. Women have to be taught to not drown in other people's problems in order to save themselves. You have to have a reminder. Hey. So don't beat yourself up about that, Carrie. Whitney, what do you think about that? When you think about protecting yourself, you want to be there. You want to be a support system. You love people. You want to encourage them, but good Lord, sometimes it's like they're standing on your neck and pushing you under the water.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the accommodation, the avoidant accommodation thing, because it reminds me of, or hits home on, I recently had this kind of come to Jesus with my best friend, and I've always known we were never like typical best friends. And then I realized there was so much resentment once we got to that boiling point, and it was like, hey, we need space. And then I looked back and I was like, wow, there's so many things I didn't tell her because I was afraid of her reaction, because she showed me that in other topics she was judgmental or she was hostile or whatever. And I've always been the big voice, the big,
Mhm.
you know, I'll say what's on my mind, whatever. So I would, because I think other people see me as the aggressive person and her as like the softer person. Whereas when it comes to the core of who we are, it kind of, you know, I don't want to say anything that she's a bad person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a little bit of a distinction between how we go about situations. And I felt like I was looking back on so many events and I'm like, wow, you should be able to tell your best friend that stuff. And I didn't tell her. I mean, we're talking now, we're fine or whatever, but you know, it sucks because, you know, you think you should be able to sustain a relationship, but you know, sometimes you just get too far apart, you know.
You do, and sometimes we end up being less of who we are, or editing again, kind of like, you know, editing who we are and making these accommodations so someone else can feel better. But it feels so good. Doesn't it feel good to actually walk away from a meeting or walk away from someone from lunch or a phone conversation and you said exactly what you felt and what you meant, and you meant what you said. So that whole feeling, we like call that being congruent. And it really is therapeutic to be congruent. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of stress, it can cause anxiety, and it can cause us to feel really just upset and unsettling. It's almost like we're just kind of in limbo. You know, have you ever felt in limbo when you just don't know where you stand? And you're really not having an authentic interaction, because when you are with, there's transactions, right? Years ago, they had this theoretical orientation called transactional analysis. And they were talking about just every time you interact with someone, it's a transaction.
Mhm.
And so how do you transact with other person? And, you know, is it, you know, what are the implications of that? And so when you're not authentic and you're not congruent, it is stressful, because is it really authentic? Does that person really know you? And at what cost? Why were you doing that? Did you want to feel accepted? Do you think there was going to be rejection? Do you
Right.
think you weren't worthy? Do you think there was going to be some loss? Because the universe, and depending on your, you know, if you religion and all that, I do feel that the universe and God reject things. When there's rejection, it's protection from a higher power, because this rejection is really something that you don't need in your life. You know, like your body rejects something, you know, it's just being rejected. And sometimes we see that as hurtful. So then we have to look at our past life and our family of origin to find out, did we ever feel that way again? I guarantee you that if you look back at usually ages 12 or under, you can find another situation where you felt like that, and think about that. And if you could play a secret videotape to look at that situation when you were younger, to say, wow, when did I feel like that? When was there a time when I needed a friend or I needed help and I got help, but you know, it wasn't a good situation, it wasn't a good feeling, or I got help and it was a good situation. What did that look like? What did it feel like? Because
Right.
emotionally, we remember that. So I bet you that you felt like that before. And I would go back and look back to see when that's happened before in your life, and what's the meaning? Because we have to, when we're reflecting on what's happened in our lives and who we are and why we react in situations, even with imposter syndrome, you have to reflect and think about what was being said, how you felt, and what was the meaning of the interaction. And once we can unlock the meaning, that's really powerful. When it's like that, unlocking that door, you know, that blind
I
spot.
definitely kind of get the core of that. I mean, that goes
Mhm.
way back to a lot of things, and Dane's knows what I'm talking about. But one of the things I definitely think stuck out to me is I've always felt a responsibility to quiet myself around people whose voices weren't as strong, maybe. And then it makes me feel like I need to hush myself just so that, and then like, if someone ever helped me, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Why would you help me? I'm so, you know, privileged and, you know, everything. Like, why would you ever pity me or feel bad for me or whatever? So I always said a lot of that's been pushed down for sure. For sure. Of
Thank you for sharing that.
course.
Well, I tell you, some of the things I think about with what you both have said is, can people handle your evolution?
Mhm.
Because I have this theory that um, women marry and divorce the same man, but men marry and divorce two very different women. I believe that women evolve much more than men do. And just think about it. I mean, it's just logical. They have more resistance. They have to change. Their edges have to get shaved off because everything they meet is an obstacle. For men, things have kind of gone their way. They got there first. They set the rules, yada, yada. I mean, if they have resistance, they're looking for it. But women find it no matter what. So we're a little bit more agile, and we move and we evolve. And some people can't roll with us, or they can't roll with us at the same speed we're evolving. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that's friends, sometimes that's romantic relationships. I have found that I have been able to circle back and come back with some relationships from my past. They're different. They look different, but we had that commonality. We had that thing that drew us together in the first place. And now it looks different because we both changed or we've evolved. And so I just like people to think of things in an evolutionary perspective rather than a burning a bridge. We can't grow together. We can't be together in some future part. Sometimes you can outgrow somebody, but sometimes you're just growing at a different rate and in a different environment, who knows? So
that's really powerful, Dana, that evolution, because that's really key. Can the person, your significant other, your partner for life, can they evolve with you? Can they handle your evolution?
Do they want this version of Dana, or can they handle every iteration? Now, no one can, obviously. Let's accept that. But no, you know what I mean? I mean, most people are only interested in this version of you, the one that they find, the one they fall in love with, whether it's friendship, employment, romantic, whatever. Most people just want that one.
Oh, absolutely.
I know not somebody who can stay that one. You should probably broadcast that early.
But see, because what happens is a lot of people don't admit that, and they don't put everything out there because they're not being 100% congruent. And sometimes they marry, and sometimes that there's when it comes to money, we know that men typically will make more. And so there's this power differential 100%. In many relationships. And that power differential, many men enjoy, whether they're cognizant of it or not, enjoy that power differential. And then when you're evolving and evolving and evolving and evolving, and things are more like this, then that's a hard pill to swallow. And oftentimes that's very intimidating to them. And they really wanted you just to be, just the college,
lane.
Yeah, the college law clerk, before you got all these degrees and stuff. And they want you to, go back to who you were, and they can't handle because of their own insecurity.
They can't handle the truth. Hey, Rose, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that I tend to keep most people at arm's length. And so the ones that, that I've let in are the ones who can, I think, roll with me better. Some friends that I've had since childhood, basically, but those are the ones that have stayed around are the ones that can hang and keep up. But, I've got some of those accommodation type reactions to keeping people at arm's length. Probably is one of them, because I grew up with some people in my family who are very negative and wanted to blame anything that could be blamed on anything, and even things that couldn't. Like, you could tell this person a tree fell on my car, and it would be, who parked it there? Why'd you park there? It's like, it's nobody's fault. It's a freak accident. But it's like, if anything you say can and will be used against you, you just stop speaking. So
shut down. You shut down.
Yeah, because of that. So what the great thing about when we have had challenges or trauma or adversity, women are very, you said it, Dana, very resilient. We know how to bounce back. So there are these protective factors, and there's these resiliencies that we develop as a result of challenges, which make us even stronger and make us who we are. And yes, can we also maybe, can that come into play in current relationships? And are there areas for improvement? Sure. But it's great that, there's certain things that have happened that might be unfortunate that have helped us to navigate our path and navigate relationships now. But, it's all in the relationship. When we cultivate and nurture relationships, if it's a really authentic relationship where you can be congruent and be authentic, the relationship should be able to withstand the question or the issue or the crisis or whatever it is. If the relationship is really what it's supposed to be and what you feel it is, if it's a true relationship, and it's equal, it's equitable, and it's mutually respectful, then the relationship should be able to handle the challenging event or unfortunate event that happened.
Let me get us back to our topic, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is May. And I always want to find a way to give these resources to people who don't have a lot of money and time. I mean, how do we help the people who are already on the margins, who are already just gasping for air, just to cover, as you said, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? They're just trying to get food, shelter, clothing, food, shelter, clothing. You know, they're not trying to self-actualize. Good Lord, that's, you know, fantasy. So how do we make this accessible? How do we who are privileged help other people? And how do we who are privileged get out from under our own mental health things, which is like I said, I struggle with depression. How do we get ourselves up and say, get up, girl, go help some other people?
You know, that's a great question. You know, everybody, the number one thing that everyone should have, and I encourage people to write it out, is to have a self-care plan. That
Love it.
doesn't mean that you have to have a gym membership, you know, that you're going to be down at the fancy gym or whatever. Everyone can't afford that. But having a self-care plan and doing something to change your physiology, to get out there and walk, or to, you know, do something, and to try to eat better, and to get involved with some of the community events maybe. Because there are people out there. I know there's, you know, for serious mental health, we know there's Appalachia Mental Health Center. We know that the Oasis Center for Women and Girls, we know that they have some mental health counseling there for abusive relationships. There's the Refuge House. We know that, you know, for people who are homeless, there's a Carney Center and some other things. But definitely having some type of self-care plan and being very intentional about it is critical, because that self-care plan could be, it's not that everyone's self-care plan is, oh, I'm going to get a Starbucks. Everyone can't afford to get Starbucks every day. But sometimes it's people having good conversations, you know, getting outside, going for a walk. Everyone can't get a massage, but what can you do? Some people can go on YouTube and, you know, Google guided imagery and listen to some of the guided imagery mindfulness tapes to try to get their mindset and to maintain their balance. You know, when we maintain our balance and our equanimity, it really feels good, right? But sometimes we need maybe, you know, some people have some discounted sliding scale, I guess, you know, coaching and counseling. The people that can afford it can go to Psychology Today, psychologytoday.com, and research the backgrounds of many counselors, because they're vetted before you can even get on that listserv. But definitely a self-care plan to start with, and then reaching out and having a community of people that care, you know, reaching out to a friend, trying to stay away from things that are bad for us. There's some things that just don't serve us well. Some people are, you know, some people look to nurture their faith. So everyone of us has to look at the different parts of our life, whether it's, you know, the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual. And it's kind of like doing a SWOT analysis. Like, what is your goal? And writing out a goal for your self-care plan, and then doing that SWOT analysis and writing out your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities to reach that goal, and then some threats, whether they are real or perceived threats, and then working with someone to try to set some of those SMART goals. That's always a good first step to start, and whatever that means to that person. Because if you just change one little thing for your self-care plan, it can make such a huge difference. Just one little thing. Like, there's some people that said they added a 15-minute walk every day, or at lunchtime, instead of ordering a big lunch, maybe getting a smoothie and walking around the building or walking around the neighborhood. Maybe you have a walking group or something like that. I know, Dana, you all are near all those, my favorite restaurants. So it'll be hard to walk around there because I would stop and want to eat everything. But
So let's talk about this. I want to hear from our panel if any of you have any thoughts on this, but I'm thinking about highs and lows. And then when I wrote that down when you did your introduction, and I thought to myself, highs and lows, but I'm thinking now about re-entry, like going back into the post-COVID world. How deeply are we going to go back into it? Are we going to go back into it the way we were before? where we take 2 hours for a 1 hour thing that could have been done by Zoom because we took 30 to travel and 30 to travel back. You know what I'm saying? Carrie, yeah, no, you know.
Yeah.
I think you were living in your car pre-COVID. But you know what I'm saying? I want to talk about that's a challenge. We all know it, but how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to come out of COVID, go into post-COVID and maintain our mental health and maybe get a better life than we had going into it? Who wants to talk about that, Carrie?
Whew. I mean, it was so much anxiety going home from the office, and now there's so much anxiety with leaving the routines at home and going back to the office.
Back to the office.
It's like no matter which way you turn, there's just stress and anxiety about it.
Hashtag woman. Hashtag
Right? Right. But you know, for me, I think I'm finding a hybrid because I am so much more productive at home. So I think a couple days in the office and a couple days at home is going to be the right hybrid. And hopefully,
I agree.
hopefully we've all learned, myself included, that people can be incredibly productive on a more flexible schedule at home. And maybe that will help alleviate the anxiety with returning to the office. You know,
And a lot of women will stop losing time for nonsense. I
Yeah.
mean, our time is so precious. You know, we have got to maximize all of it. If we can cut down on some travel and some dressing up and some expenses of all that kind, you know what I mean? I just think that this equalizer, it's almost like a gender equalizer to a certain extent. I think it
Yeah.
is. Anybody else got thoughts on that?
Honestly, I don't think it's going to change things as much as we think. Like everyone's like, the world will never be the same. You know, once we're out of COVID, we're, you know, all these things are still, we're never really going to be out. I think everything is going to go back to the way that it was. And hopefully it won't, like in some of the good ways of, yes, it's so much more efficient. I never have to go into a mediator's office or a court reporter's office again. I am okay with that. But I think in general,
I will argue with you on that for one reason, because the people we litigate against, the people who compete with us, these people bill by the hour.
Yeah.
And they are treated as if every hour is worth as much as the other hours. Their hours are treated as if they're what we call in the legal world fungible. They're not. The hour that gets you out of $1 million case in a week, those hours are worth a whole lot more than the ones that have you driving to take a deposition of somebody you've deposed 10 times. So it's silly, but that's how they've done it. But the problem is this: I used to be married to somebody who grinded out a living that way. And the minute COVID happened, I thought to myself, if I had to sit at a desk and grind out 40 hours a week at 150 an hour, I would kill myself. I'd drum in front of the next bus that went by, hopefully with my face on it. No. Yes, though. But anyway, I thought to myself, that's terrible. But I heard this. I'm hearing this from the people who litigate against us. They said, we're not going back to the same, because they know now they've been paying for a lot of boondoggling that they didn't need to pay for. So I don't think that we're going to go right back to it, because I think a lot of people who pay people in other ways, we get paid whenever we collect for our clients. If we don't get them any money, they don't owe us any money. If we collect for them, we get a cut, they get the rest. That's how it works. So we're all incentivized in the same way, but that's not how a lot of people make their living. The people against us do not. So I think their worlds are going to be horrifying.
I like that idea though about a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of maybe a hybrid. And like you're saying, so many people now have learned, Carrie, thank you for saying that there's so much that could be done at home. There's so much that could be done, because when you think about driving, oh my goodness, you know, when I drive from here over to the university, it's 30 minutes. And you think, okay, it's just 11 miles, but it's 30 minutes of driving. Then what if I can't find a parking space?
Oh, you've given up an hour and a half of your day and you got nothing of equal or greater value in exchange for it. That's a loss.
Absolutely. And then you say, now I'm thinking hopefully more people are learning how to run meetings. Yeah. Because, you know, when you run a meeting, if it's an efficient meeting, it should be probably, you know, 45 minutes, maybe in and out. But there are people that want to meet for the sake of meeting. And then, you know, that's why at Home Goods, they have the little signs, the little things you can buy. And there's that one, I actually bought one, and it says, just went to another meeting. They could have been an email. I mean, it's true. Yeah. And then, I mean, there are people who are learning, there's lots of different gadgets, even for project management. I was on a meeting the other day. I was very impressed. and they were using the app Miro. Have you seen that one? It's excellent.
No, I have not. Have y'all?
Yeah.
Miro, you would love it. It's like a whiteboard, and then you have a moderator. And if you have a certain topic, then you can time it and say, okay, let's brainstorm this topic for 2 minutes. And they'll say, okay, Dana, pick whatever color you want. So you're going to have the little post-it notes, like virtually that are pink. Some might have green. And then you put your ideas, and then the moderator will drag those that are similar into a certain box, something else. I might say, oh, Dana, that's a great idea. Let's put that in the parking lot. But this is amazing. It's Miro. And you can look at anyway, people are learning how to do things more efficiently and saving time. And hopefully people don't go back to micromanaging and having people just sit and waste time at a desk in an office when they could be doing that from home at least 50% of the time.
No, I love that. To me, if you really want to get control of your life, you need to get control of two things, your money and your time. And the way to do both of those things, to me, the quickest way is to master technology. There are so many things. If you just knew how to handle this device. I have a friend who has on the back of their phone, this makes you money, pick it up. I mean, to me, if I leave it, I'm like that movie Gravity. I'm just lost in space. I'm just hoping someone comes along and picks me up. No, this is my lifeline to the entire world. If I put it down, I'm not making money. If I put it down, I'm turning somebody off. I'm not helping them, so they're not liking me, and then they tell everybody else they don't like me, and I don't get any more work. Be accessible. Now, everybody has boundaries, but I'm just telling you, this thing right here is a gift if you use it wisely and intentionally. I want to give a shout out to a couple of people. Kim Dukes Hartzell is watching. Yay. Laura Turner is watching, and she's appreciating the good quaffs. Whitney Claire is bringing to the table, and Dana Brooks also.
You did a curl today, Laura.
Thank you. Rob, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sure. Marcinowski, he agrees. He says you can accomplish the same thing at home than in an office. He said, trust among other people in today's society. Some folks don't care. I don't know. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think everybody cares. They just don't know how to demonstrate it in a way that would be well received by everybody, I think is the problem. I think we have a lot of communication problems, but I do think with the right energy and culture in the world where we receive each other honestly and openly, I think we can work on that. Kimmy Hogan, we haven't heard from you in a minute. What's going through your brain during Mental Health Awareness Empower Hour?
Yes, I'm loving all of it. I want to know from Dr. Mitcham, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. What topics are you interested in kind of bringing to light and bringing to the forefront of our discussion today?
Fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, actually, this whole idea, I guess, mental health about when the imposter syndrome, knowing that people are enough and knowing that they are worthy. A lot of people struggle with that. Also knowing that you can delegate. For those that can do it, there's things that you can delegate because you don't have to do everything. There's some people think I have to do everything.
Yeah.
I have to be, the super mom, and I got to do everything. You can get into some carpools. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. I remember years ago, some mothers saying, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom because I want to see my children grow up, kind of like guilting the other women, who were going to work and doing things. So depending on your support system, a lot of times people don't want to ask for help, but we know that there's a lot of quality help you can have. Just recently, I can't think of the app. There's an app that's really good that you can find tutors, you can find nannies, babysitters, people that can come in just for maybe 2 hours in the morning, to help out or whatever. So depending on, you don't have to clean the house. No one is going to give you an award for, cleaning your baseboards in your house. Pay for, if you can afford it, pay for someone to do that, because there's so many other things that you could be doing, and that's important work. But again, like Dana says, you're here, I have it too. Like here, you have to have this, you're making money and doing other things. So not feeling guilty that you can't do everything, and being realistic and giving yourself the gift of self-care, I think is so important, because people do worry. And just having your voice. If more women can have their voice and have courageous conversations with one another, a lot of crazy things are going on in the world, and you know what I mean? Like, I wake up a human being every day. I'm not waking up a Democrat or a Republican or this person or this gender or that color, just the humanistic side, the oneness of humanity. Be humanistic and just remember just to treat people kindly, because these are tough times, and to be courageous and have some of those tough talks with those people and those things in your life that don't serve you well. It's okay to take some things off the burner, or to take some things out of the equation, maybe to brainstorm. You might brainstorm. Another show we could talk about scamper. I like using the scamper technique. I think we talked about that at one time, Dana, and like scampering ideas to brainstorm to see what can you take off your plate to simplify your life. Because at the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel, and what's the quality, what are the memories you're making with your significant other or your children, because life is just too short. So what is the quality of your life? And I think people have to try to live, as Oprah would say, your best quality life. And how can you do that? What can you do to make your dreams, become a reality and come to fruition? And what can you take off your plate? Things that are people that cause you lots of stress, make a change.
Yeah.
Dana, you said something about, divorce and ex-husbands. I remember, ex-husband.
I know of which I speak.
Yeah, right. I had an ex-husband that said something. And I said, that behavior is just not attractive. And that was not, what I told him? I said,
this is what she said to tell people. She's like, that behavior is not attractive.
And I said, that wasn't a part of my dream. That's what I said. That was what
she said, and that's not part of my dream.
That wasn't a part of my dream.
That's not a
I'm
cute
like,
look.
where was she? Where was she not blowing up my text drive when I was dealing with those? No,
So this is the thing we have to think
I
about.
don't blame anybody other than me for the choices I've made. Please don't misunderstand me.
One of the things that I do.
love that. Say it again. Say it again,
Yeah.
Dr.
So the thing is, right, you tell someone their behavior and what they're doing or saying, Sam, that's not attractive. And that was not a part, and is not a part of my dream. Because as young girls, we have dreams. As women, we have dreams.
Yeah.
I am certified as a Gottman therapist, levels 1,
Love
levels
Gottman.
2, and
I'm
level
a big
3.
fan of Gottman.
So yes, so
Yeah.
a lot of people are not certified at level 3. And so level 3 Gottman training, there's tons of tools that go with that. Tons of tools. There's a 400 and like 70 something questionnaire that the couples have to fill out. But there's this whole ideas about dreams and dreams within conflict. And so what happens is you have a dream in your heart that you haven't shared with your family or your significant other or your children or whoever, or your, or your law firm. I don't know. But if you have a dream that's in there, what is that dream that you haven't acted on, that people don't know? And it doesn't have to be a big, huge dream. But when you think about your dream life, your dream vacation, your dream, just your work that you do, the quality relationships and what you do, the dreams of being independent or having a voice or feeling worthy and saying things like, I am worthy, because you are worthy of success and worthy of happiness. And it's up to us to define what makes us happy and then to go for it. If something doesn't work, get rid of it, do something different. It's very important to do those things that make us who we are. You have to do those things that make you you and make you feel alive and happy. Monday, I was playing golf. So Monday I'm like, hey, it's hot, but I was playing golf. So the Tallahassee Woman Magazine, we had a one.
You asked me to do it. I said, you don't want that.
Yeah, we had a 100% women's golf
I want to
team.
see it.
And so you have to make time to do those things that make you you and make you happy. I have to tell you, one year my husband said, hey, let's go to the beach for Christmas. I said, okay, let's go to the beach. And he said, okay, what beach would you like to go to? I said, let's go to the beach in Jamaica at Sandals. He said, okay, I guess I put my foot in my mouth. I guess we're going to Sandals. So that's what I wanted to do. That was part of my dream. Another year he said, where do you want to go? I said, I want to go to Fiji. He's like, okay, let's go to Turtle Island, and only 15, so whatever the point, what is your dream? But they could be smaller dreams. Is it another degree? Do you want to take up tennis? Do you want to be able to have a dream to talk to somebody, to tell people, talk about it, don't be about it. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And that's very important, because a lot of people talk, but what are they doing? What are their actions? So act on those things that make you happy and make you fulfilled, because life is too short. Life is way too short. So just do it.
I always said this. I mean, a lot of people, I love that life is too short metaphor. I think it's apropos of many things, but I always said life is too long to get stuck with the wrong person, the wrong place, the wrong city, the wrong job. I always thought life is just treacherously boring if you find yourself in the wrong place. And for you to think that you don't deserve any better, you shouldn't aspire to any better just because you thought this is what you wanted at the time. I don't see the honor in the suffering.
No, there's no honor in the
A lot
suffering.
of
That's a
people
good
beat
point.
me up over that. A lot of people will beat me up over that. Commitment's commitment. You made a vow, all these kinds of things, but I just don't see the honor in the suffering. I don't. When both people can be relinquished and able to find what is the best thing for them, whether it's a job opportunity, a friendship, a romantic relationship, whatever. Okay, we've got just a minute left. So I want to go around first to Whitney, then to Kimmy, then to Rose, then to Carrie, and then a final wrap up with Dr. Mitcham. Thank you again for being with us tonight on this very important topic. So let's go, Dubs.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on the self-care plan thing. I am on a 75-day kind of self-care, meditate every day, read every day, tons of water every day. And then
Whitney drinks so much water. Whitney drinks your water.
That's a lot. And limit kind of toxic behaviors or behaviors and stuff that couldn't lead down a bad road or whatever. So I kind of like 75 days. I'm about 54 days in. And I think like sticking yourself to something like that is amazing because it's, you're making time for yourself every day and you are getting disciplined about it, which I love. And then one thing I wanted to point on, last thing real quick, is when you say the imposter syndrome, to me, I hear like that negative self-talk. That's kind of what resonates with me. And
instead of building you up until you feel good. Yeah.
That is something I'm definitely working towards. And I think that's a big topic of conversation for this awareness month. So I love hearing that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I dig that 100%. Yeah. Kimmy, what are you thinking?
Oh, I'm so thankful, Dr. Mitcham. You've been a wealth of knowledge. I've just been soaking it all up. I have so many things to Google tonight. The Gottman training. I've got my list. I'm going to be Googling and maybe we can have you back again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so many topics. Oh my gosh, we can talk. Yeah, let's talk.
Infinite. Carrie Roan, what's up with you?
Well, first of all, your makeup looks amazing, and I suspect that Lisa might have had a hand in it because it looks fantastic. So I wanted to tell you that before we get off the phone, because after all, we are girls. But I think you look beautiful.
Great. We love Lisa.
I think you look beautiful. But I really want to thank you for being on, and I just want to know what is going on right now to promote kind of awareness and acceptance with regard to mental health awareness and mental health diagnoses and treatment in teenagers and children, because I think we've seen a pretty big uptick maybe in the past 10 years or so with respect to teen suicide, and it seems like it's more commonplace. And I've got 2 teenage boys. I worry about that all the time. And we've had some friends that have lost some children, which is the most horrible thing anybody could ever go through. So I'm just curious to know if there's any type of campaigns going on, or if there's any type of anything going on to kind of increase that awareness so there's not a stigma associated with kids with mental illness becoming aware of it, getting it treated, getting it diagnosed.
100%.
Well, it was an excellent point. What I would say, and thank you, I would definitely, mental health is so real. I would definitely look at the American School Counselor Association website, ASCA, ASCA, and they have tons and tons and tons of resources. The American School Counselor Association, that's the national association, and it's all things for school counselors. They have a lot of mental health topics. There are a lot of position statements and resources also on the American Counseling Association website, ACA. We also have a Florida Mental Health Counselor Association, FAMCA. We have the Florida Counseling Association as well. So there's the American Counseling Association is national, and then the state level is the FCA. I used to be president of that. And then there's AMCA, the American Mental Health Counseling Association. And then they have a Florida division called FAMCA, but it's American Mental Health Counseling Association. There's also the National Association for Mental Health, but I would definitely look at that. They even have some mental health articles on the CDC website, resources for parents, for teens. So there's a lot there. And those are just a few resources that you can look under to get a lot of great information.
And I
Thank
want to
you.
tell everybody who's watching, thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for mentioning that, but that was a lot to choke down. So reach out to us, Dana at facingbrooks.com, Facebook me, whatever. We'll get you, send a message to the Empower Plant at, on Facebook. So we'll get you all of that. I know that was a lot to put down, but that's why we bring these experts on, is so they can give you resources. And as always, I encourage people who have other resources, please share your opinion, share your experiences. This is an open forum. We don't take a position here. Rose, finally, as we wind up tonight, Mental Health Awareness Month. What are you thinking? What's your last thoughts with Dr. Mitcham today?
Well, I actually had a question going back to one of the earliest things that you said about having a self-care plan and goals and that kind of thing. I know for me, and probably for a lot of people, depression comes with a lot of executive dysfunction of just not having the energy or the motivation or the desire to do anything, and you get up and you have to go to work and do things all day, and so then you don't want to do anything else. Do you have tips or any kind of thought of how to motivate or get somebody to get on a plan like that, where it's like, I know this will make me feel better, I just can't make myself,
I can't get myself up to do it.
Yeah, well, one of the things is having an accountability partner. And sometimes
Yeah.
that can be counterproductive, but oftentimes it works. If there's someone that, even if they're in another state, I have a girlfriend that we have an app or whatever. There's a lot of different apps, but she says, hey, let's go bike riding. And I was like, okay. And so she's in Michigan, I'm here in Florida. And so, it's like, hey, let's go for a bike ride. And so we'll get on our app or whatever. So there are apps, having accountability partners. Also, those positive affirmations can help. Setting an appointment with yourself, because we have to treat our self-care plan just like we would if we had to go to the dentist. If you had a serious thing, oh my God, I have to go to the dentist. Is that serious? Or like you have to go make money and you have an appointment, whatever. Making appointment for it. And when other people say, hey, what are you doing? Are you free? You don't say, oh, well, yeah, because you had the self-care plan, but you're going to throw it out the window because someone called you. Say, actually, I have an appointment and I have to take care of it. You don't have to tell people what it is, but you have an appointment. So you might want to think about an accountability partner to start. You may want to engage in some, even some professional coaching. There are a lot of people that do that online and virtually. But actually, and I don't know if you like apps or not, apps with alarms and things and all of that. But I know there's the MyFitnessPal, there's the Under Armour app, and there's the Nike app, and there's lots of different apps. And some people are over all the apps, but I know there's some really good ones out there. Also, getting an evaluation sometimes to look at if we're eating something that actually is making us feel lethargic or whatever. So sometimes I had someone that actually went and got an evaluation because they were eating things that they didn't know was making them feel lethargic.
Yeah.
And it can make you feel down, and so, for example, that's another story. My husband is an expert on that. He's a chiropractor here, but he does food allergy.
I love people who are holistic.
He's a holistic doctor, Dr. Carrie McCord.
Exercise, all of that. I love
Yeah.
it. Physiology.
Yeah.
You said the physiology.
Yeah, the
how our
physio.
brain functions. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can actually be eating things that make you, for example, my daughter was eating things that made her feel bloated and lethargic. She was getting a headache. She just didn't feel like doing anything. And so we found out, she had a food sensitivity to gluten and dairy.
Right. I've
and
heard
soy.
that so much. Yeah. Yeah, get real with yourself. But I want to thank you all. We've gone an hour and we could go all day, all week. Thank you again, Dr. Mitcham. Thank you again, Rose, Carrie, Kimmy, and Whitney. Thank you all for our listeners and our watchers. So we'll be back next week at 4:30 on Thursday to talk about something else. It's very important that we want you to get you involved in and excited about. Thank you so much for sharing, all of you, some very deeply personal things. And I think by exposing yourself even when people think you've got it all together and you're, miss everything, all of us. I think showing a little weakness and little chinks in your armor, I think that goes a long way. So thank you for sharing that with everybody, and we'll see you next week. This was a great one.
Thank you,
Dr.
Jamie. Thanks,
Mitchum.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you. It was great. Thank you. Bye.